Yeah, money. Money is cool.
Aren't you ashamed? 10-6-9er, we got whores in the city. We need backup now. Don't be so dang literal.
Well, you've got one heck of a nerve.
Oh my God! The government is here! Run!
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all of our friends beyond the binary. Once again, we are live here at Totally Toonular. It's Wednesday night. We're on YouTube. We're hanging out. And as you can see, it is lonely old Ben J tonight. James is still out on set. He's working hard, hardly working, whatever it is. Live on the Flapjacks set by our dear sweet friends at Bad Taste Video. They're working hard, trying to bring you something like you ain't never seen before, and James is trying to bring you some sound like you ain't never heard before. You'll also notice that Nicole Matarese is MIA tonight, and she's got some family business and personal stuff that she is taking care of. She sends her best, her well wishes, and all of her love to the grand total of 5 of you that might see this tonight. So just know that. But I can't sit here and yell and scream into the void on my own. That's hardly a show. Usually that's me on a Saturday while I drive around just yelling at things. It's because I'm old and I'm cranky. But tonight, sitting in Hall of Toonie, it's been a hot minute since you've heard his voice. We have Mr. Connor McCarthy joining us this evening. Connor, what's shaking, brother?
That's me. Not much. So you just reminded us that James is on set. My first time on Totally Toonular, we pre-recorded a bunch of stuff in preparation to be on set. So I think it's kind of fun that, in a way, brings me back around tonight.
It's very apropos, is it not?
Indeed.
Like it's one of those things where the last time you were here, it was in preparation for our film, right? You guys pre-recorded a bunch of like watch-alongs with God. You guys did Cool World. You did oh my God, remind me what else was in there. I know Cool World. I vividly remember that. Oh, Spicy City, right?
Yes, Cool World and Spicy City were my recs to James. I also made him watch Stripperella, which Stanley created, and he had no idea existed. That was fun.
Very much.
James made me watch Xavier Renegade Angel, which was a special experience. And the show, not to spoil it already, but the show that we're doing tonight reminded me of a structured version of Xavier Renegade Angel.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about it via text. We talked a little bit about it. I just saw something weird happen on the YouTube. I don't know. Papa Bergio's running the board tonight, checking us out, making sure that we're all good to go. But I saw it blink from me and Connor to back to the circle. So our wonderful producer, Papa John Bergio, is on top of that. Regardless, we will soldier on. Yeah, the show we're watching tonight is a little. I would say it's similar. It's very similar in tone, as far as like a level of just general absurdity goes, for sure. Wildly different animation style. Completely different sort of scope of what this reality may sort of be, right? Now, we always start, though, Connor, with a little bit of how the week has been. So How has your week been, sir?
My week has been decent, as you know, but the world may not be aware yet. I'm planning on moving to New York City around January, so my friend helped me kind of establish a website for kind of an at-home private party bartending business I want to start, just so I'm not working for the man the entire time I'm there. Make it easier for myself to, run out, get acting gigs, stuff like that. And so,
Wait. Okay, now, like this is burying the lead. That's a thing I did not know. You're looking at running your own private party,
bartending,
bartending
yeah.
business. So, am I to assume that this just means speedos and banana hammocks and fucking a bow tie?
I mean, in New York City, anything's possible. I mean, money talks. That being said, of course, it's really just an overly elaborate way of saying, I'll come to your house and make your life easier. No giggity. And it's basically just a way of kind of cutting out the middleman, and working for yourself, so to speak.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's wonderful. They pay extra for the banana hammock.
Obviously.
Yeah, I
I mean,
mean, listen. Well,
I'm not.
you know they're like topless maid services and there's all of that stuff, right? Which is basically just a reason to have a lady come to your house and be topless, and she might have a feather duster in her hand, but you're by the hour to just have a lady be like, "Ooh, look, there's a dusting thing."
The small scope is to, contract out some friends of mine that I can call servers and other bartenders and whatnot. So, I mean, sky's the limit as this grows, Ben.
This makes me so happy. You don't even know. And I joke a little bit. I really do. Like I joke probably too much, but it actually sounds like a wonderful notion for as long as you've got like your server stuff taken care of, you've got like your business license, you're able to take care of all of that stuff prior to, and you make sure that because you are serving, that you got all that bullshit squared away. Like, man, you're absolutely right. Sky's the limit. That's unreal.
Well, the beautiful association with that is that legally I can't provide alcohol, so the client has to do all that, and so it's all a very streamlined service. And from my experience so far working in hospitality, it's like people like to pay to make their own lives easier. So I'm in, and in New York City especially, I feel like it's a great place to grow and develop that, but also people are going to want that.
Bro, that is amazing. Like I am beside myself right now. Uh you literally can just show up at somebody's house and be like, hey guys,
You do need a
I'll
so
serve you your own drinks in your own home."
I never pursued it because that's always how I looked at it, but it really is like an in-demand thing, or at least it's becoming that way. I think post pandemic, that's really pushed, a want for stuff like that too. Like, I don't know, like the world is getting livelier, but it's almost in a quieter way. I don't know if you would agree with that or not. At least here in New England, which is kind of sleepy anyway.
No, man, listen, the world steady stays quiet, stays loud. It's constantly in flux. Down here, things seem to be more back to normal. The only thing that anybody ever says is, "You remember when it was COVID times? You all remember when it was COVID times?" That's all anybody ever says. Uh, and real quick, in the chat, we've got our best friend, Dwayne Steela, in the chat tonight. Connor, he says, "What's up?" And he says Connor is his co-star from The Portrait of Payback. Hell yeah.
That's right. Which will I don't know if it'll be out this year, but I know we just shot that, and I'm super excited about it. I got to play Dwayne's arch nemesis.
So can you tell, like we've talked a little bit about that, and then I'll fill you in a little bit of what's going on here. But how was that experience overall?
So James actually hired. His name's Kyle, and his last name's escaping me, but I know that he runs a horror podcast that we should plug at the end of this somehow. He is an actual fight choreographer. He told me he worked on a couple big studio pictures. One of them, I think, was Aronofsky's Noah. I don't think he did fight choreography on that, but he's well seasoned and knew his shit. So he taught. He didn't teach, but he went over some very precise movements with myself and Dwayne. He showed Reeves how to safely fall through a table. That was delightful. And it was it was great, but it felt all the more professional with his presence. And the shoot itself went really smoothly, in my opinion. James really did a fantastic, and Chris Lynn did a fantastic job replicating the John Wick aesthetic. For those who don't know, Portrait of Payback is a tribute to John Wick movies.
Yeah, very much so. Everything I saw, they hit that what they call in the industry that bisexual lighting, very hardcore. The reds and the blues. When I saw that basement lit up, bro, I was kind of beside myself. Frankly, I was a little jelly, but I couldn't make it up. I was too busy. No, too broke. Literally too broke. But I mean, listen, man, sometimes it happens that way, you know. A couple $100 on gas, couple $100 on an airplane ticket. Right now, I had to pump all that into something else altogether. So let's put it that way. I still have no, nothing. What movie? Huh? But no. Like seriously, yeah. Some of that went into getting a theater to be able to show. Some of that went into website setup. Some of that's gone into some finishing funds for the film. All of that stuff. And if I'm not here to make sure, you know, laundromat's up and running, then we have no I have no funds. But yeah, man, that's amazing. So big move coming up in a couple of months. You got a business plan in mind, and fucking you're trucking right on along, acting, doing all the things, Connor.
Yes, staying in shape, as I just alluded to, trying to pursue acting and whatnot aggressively for a couple of years. The goal with the business model is just to make sure, you know, I'm not killing myself working and getting eaten alive by New York and not having time to pursue my hopes and dreams.
There you go, man. And like, speaking of pursuing hopes and dreams, I'm going to fill you in on a couple of things right quick before we hop into this fucking spectacular show. We have our first two Curse of the Weredeer public screenings coming up. The first is an audience test screening in Gallatin, Tennessee. People can go for a limited time only to www.curseoftheweredeer.com. It's spelled just as you think it would be, curseoftheweredeer.com. You can pick up some tickets. We're going to have live music. We're going to have a feature presentation, and we're going to have a Q&A with some of the cast and crew after the fact. We literally just a couple of days ago got picture lock on the film, and when we look at it, it is a testament to the work that I want to say like at least 70 people were a part of in some way, shape, or form, you know.
A lot of people went out of their way to not just be in the movie, but give a lot to the movie. And from what I've seen, I haven't seen the picture lock version yet. Like it's all on screen. It's abundantly apparent. Not biased at all.
I'll send you a link. Don't worry about it. But it is absolutely insane, and it came together in a way that like it's one of those deals where it's like you don't know what you expect, and then when you see it there and it's come together better than you ever thought it could be, it's one of those things that I just, you know, I'm beyond grateful to everybody involved. and I've said it 1,000 times, and I'll keep saying it probably for the rest of my life. But to everybody involved, a big, massive, fatty thank you, because yeah, it's weird. It gets you a little emotional when you see your baby growing up. Uh, but
And
John stepped in to help out as our finishing editor and did an amazing job. He took a good cut. He took a good cut and turned it into a fucking great cut. Um, the effects that were added. There's a gentleman named Bob Rose who helped out with a very specific animation in the movie, uh, which it's a giveaway, so I can't tell you. But there is a very specific thing that is animated in this film that you'll see and you'll notice. And that was all this guy Bob Rose, friend of Babette Bombshell. Um, we had a couple other folks step in, is sort of a little later in the game that have just really just knocked it out of the park and really helped bring us kind of home. So very happy, very proud of what the entire team has turned out. And with that, we're screening 8/25 as an audience test screening in Gallatin, Tennessee at the Palace Theater. But our official premiere, and the one that everybody should get to if you can, if you find yourself there, New York City, baby, New York City, the Big Apple, right? And if we can make it there, then by goddamn, we'll make it anywhere, right? 9/2, February 2nd. I hear tell at around 8 o'clock at the Beauty Bar. You'll be able to catch the official world premiere at the Troma Dance Film Festival, Curse of the Werdeer. And then you'll go out, you party your balls off, and if you have any luck, Jailbot will pick you up and carry you way on off to Super Jail.
you sound incredibly proud, Bren, and rightfully so. But fundamentally, you made a movie that's premiering in Manhattan, New York, and I think that itself, on its own, is something really special.
I keep having to tell John this too. He's like, you, and he can chime in if he wants to. He's got a microphone. He ain't gonna. But I keep telling you guys this, and I'll keep saying it. There ain't no you to any of this. It's we. It is all we. We did this as a team, as a group of people, as folks who saw something in a thing, and we did it without it. We're like a clock. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make any sense? It doesn't. So a clock can't tell time, right? Like you look at a clock to tell time. A clock can't tell time if the arms don't move. The arms move separately of the springs inside. The springs move separately from the cogs, from the wheels, from all of those pieces. And then everything is wound from the back, if it's an old-timey like grandfather clock, right? So if one of those pieces is fucked, the clock don't tell time. You know what I mean? And so the movie, we're telling time, right? Like that's the whole thing. We're just telling time. And without a single person that helped, we don't have a thing.
That's the most beautiful never have happened. I love that, Ben.
I mean, it's truth. It's truth. But anyway, Connor, we're talking about Super Jail. You missed my beautiful segue because we got emotional. I mean, you got way too in your feels about it. It's okay. So have you ever seen this? And to everybody watching tonight, we are talking about a wonderful Adult Swim cartoon called Super Jail. Have you ever seen this?
I had not, but it felt like one of those like missing pieces moment when I started watching it. Like I recently, as I think a lot of us I'm sure had become nostalgic for like that classic like mid to late 2000s, early 2010s brand of Adult Swim, and this is very much so like a cog in that piece. Like it's just sheer anarchy. Plays better when you're in a ill state of mind, like around like midnight, 1 a.m. You're not really like super short episodes. You're not entirely sure what you just witnessed. I think I felt very at home with it, not just for that reason, but I think it's fair to say that there's a good amount of Trauma alumni associated with the show, and there's this brand of just like sheer violence, like mayhem, like cut with this like feeling of like joyfulness that Super Jail conveys beautifully. That is very much so at home in the Trauma universe.
I mean, it fits in. Absolutely. I don't know that anybody actually in this was associated with Trauma.
Oh, I meant the podcast. Not...
Oh, the population. Okay, yeah. If you're a fan of Trauma, you'll be a fan of Super Jail. I got you.
Yeah. It reminded me of Mr. Pickles, and in my deep dive, I saw that this was canceled to bring Mr. Pickles to life. So I thought that was fun.
Again, it's one of those weird sort of situations where, you give up your baby and then you find a new one, you leave one, you leave one baby at the fire department to like 9 months later have a newer one that you actually love.
Maybe that's okay, exactly.
So, just a quick cursory sort of glance. I mean, the voices in this are, very much some staples, not only of like Adult Swim at the time, but just like voiceover work in general. You've got David Wayne, you've got Dana Snyder, who obviously Master Shake, right? Like we've got Eric Bauza, very, very bad with pronunciations. But the voiceover talent is unreal. But what stands out, and you touched on it briefly, is this weird, hyper-violent, like psychedelic twist on a jail. Like you assume jail is a violent place, violent offenders. And if this is super jail, you would assume they go to jail for super crimes. And immediately you're jumped into a situation where it's everything from, what's his name? Jackknife. Well, let's take a step back real quick, because I'm about to go everywhere like Warden. Show starts off in the pilot episode. You've got a character named Jackknife who never actually speaks, right?
Right.
You know who voiced Jackknife when he utters and grunts?
I do not actually.
It's the director of the show, one of the creators and the director of the show, a lady named Christy Caracas. And I just think it's funny that the same person who voices Jackknife, I believe she also voices Alice too. So it's amazing. But he's a violent criminal, right? He goes into, and every episode starts off with Jackknife having previously escaped super jail, and then now he's out committing new crimes. And it's literal murder, it's arson, it's fucking animal abuse. At one point, it's attempted necrophilia at the beginning of the episode,
which I appreciated.
It's an amazing jump. It's an amazing jump. And then what happens? Jailbot picks him up and then whisk him away, all the way to super jail once again, right? Once again. Apart from the first episode, every episode starts with a song called Coming Home. Like, I don't know how you feel about it, Connor, but I think it's one of those things that sets the show up perfectly.
I agree. It sound wise, like it reminded me of like Educated Horses era, Rob Zombie of all things, but it was even the themes. It does set the show up perfectly, but it also is one of those things that felt like it made it feel like right from the era it was from, if that makes sense.
100%. You could say this show is like a slice at a time. Like it really is like a slice at a time. I think you already did say that. But like, so he gets to super jail, and we're introduced to I guess sort of the three main people that run it. You've got your warden, you've got Jared, and you've got Alice. Who of these three kind of resonates with you the most?
Easily the warden. One of my favorites underrepresented archetypes is the whimsical sociopath, and that would easily be the warden. Just because, like, he's this clearly Willy Wonka inspired character, but it's like instead of a kingdom of candy and Oompa Loompas, he's just like conceiving new ways to like efficiently manage his prisoners, and that usually involves like horribly mutilating them, and it's so happy and like whimsical. Like in what was there was one episode, I think it like, I don't know how to describe it, but they were like killbots with his face on him, and he was like criticizing the not the intern, the accountant, for like making that boring for him.
So, and that's the thing about Warden that I think is also uniquely fascinating. At the same time, he's a crazy fucking narcissist. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like he's very, very narcissistic, but what's the word I'm looking for? He's also, it seems like he's oblivious to that fact sometimes.
Definitely.
Because all the machines that have his face on them, there's a much later episode where they have a naked lady in like a Roman style Colosseum who literally rips apart like 100 prisoners. She's frothing at the mouth. She's everything. And he comes out of this ship that's basically him. It's his head, his face, his glasses, and like the steps come down and he goes down to meet her and everything. But it's so weird. And I guess in true narcissistic form, he is unaware of that. He's not really self-aware, but he also doesn't seem malicious in his narcissism,
which makes all of this so much funnier.
He's an idiot. He's a bona fide, like straight up dope. And then you get touches of it throughout like season 1, but it becomes sort of more aggressive like throughout the entire series. But he has this like shape-shifting ability. I did not see the episode where that was established. Was it, or did it just kind of come out of nowhere? Because it complements his character entirely. I mean, that's the thing is it set up kind of early on, but then it gets heavier and heavier and heavier as he goes through things, and it usually happens when he's got a massive monologue, right? Or when he's describing what's going on around him. The best example, and it's the one that sticks out in my head the most, because literally before we got on, I was rewatching the final episode, the Super Jail 6, right?
Yes.
When Warden goes down the pipe initially. So just to make sure we're clear, we've established what this show is, right? You've got a warden who runs the largest prison in the world, in the universe, in the entire galaxy.
Entirely off the grid, though.
Completely off the grid. And he's got his 2 sidekicks, and basically they keep the whole place in check. By the time we get to the final season, the 4th season, and we get to the final episode, it's called the Super Jail 6. And it's sort of like Shawshank Redemption in a way, because you're bounced around from the past to the present. You're all over the place. But basically, what had happened during year 1 of Super Jail is 6 inmates got away down a pipe. They had escaped. The warden sat and looked at it as 6 failures. Alice and Jared go through the entire, along with Jailbot. They go through everything and eliminate the number 6, so he never has to look at it. Which, to me, one of the funniest gags in that whole episode is when they remove cell block 6. Like, and you just see this giant robot come in with a hand, and he just fucking grabs the cell block and yanks everything out with it, and just fucking boom, drops it and everybody dies. Horrible deaths, faces are mushed, brains are splattered. It's fucking genius. But they eliminate the number 6 in order to keep fucking Warden from having to relive that failure. What we find out in the episode, though, is actually everybody had year 1 jitters. And it was really Alice and Jared who allowed those folks to escape. They were so scared of Warden and so scared of like losing jobs, they never wanted him to see it again. So they just let him go on thinking that they got away, that there was a flaw in the system, and there never was. Now, I forget the squid-faced man's name, but there's a guy, Stingray.
Yeah, Captain Stingray, I think.
Captain Stingray. What's his sidekick's name? Do you remember?
The little guy? Oh, no, I don't. I ended up seeing a few episodes with him.
Got it. Yeah, no worries. But he's like a fucking puppet man. He's like a ventriloquist dummy.
It was like, it was kind of Jigsaw-y. Like, he was tiny, annoying, and delightful all the same.
So those two figure out a way to escape. They found the hole that the 6 got down. They run by Warden's office yelling about escape, and then they lead him down through the tunnels. I don't know how you feel, man, but like this is a thing that I kind of love about this show. They go from these bright, beautiful, sort of like hyper colorful situations, and then when you get down in that tunnel space, everything shifts to those like oranges and purples.
It's an astonishingly artistic show in ways that you would not expect, if that's kind of what you're alluding to. Like, it's randomly quite good at creating mood. I agree, those scenes were well done, in my opinion.
So exactly, that's words out of my mouth, out of my brain. The way it sort of crafts that, and it gives you the notion that they're in this fucking like shadowy, dank sort of a place, just by changing to like a 2 to 3 tone color scope in it, instead of, having Warden run through in his purple outfit with a big old dumb white face, and you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it would take so much away if they did that, if Captain Stingray had the big yellow head and all that. But the fact that everybody is in this like 3-tone sort of color scope, it triggers something in the brain that like, okay, this is shadowy, even though it's not a shadow, even though we're not seeing shadowing, it's dark, it's whatever. This is what this is now. And they do that throughout. Like they do that throughout whenever they're taking you into these sort of alternate sort of spaces, these alternate sort of universes or whatever. But they go down the hole. And in what can really only be sort of described, there are a couple of movies and a couple of stories that it really it really sort of called into my mind. It felt like a Monty Python-esque sort of like down the tube and around the corners sort of situation when they're actually falling down that tunnel. And then there's another movie, and oh my God, it's the Oingo Boingo movie with it's normally right on the tip of my fucking tongue because I recommend it to everybody.
It can't be Weird Science. That, to me, that's the Oingo Boingo movie.
No, it's the Forbidden Zone. Jesus, Ben.
Oh, okay.
So in the Forbidden Zone, there's literally an entire sequence where they go in through this door and then they're down this tunnel and it's like boop 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 and they scoot around and they flip over some loops and everything else, and it's all done like stop motion with like a real person, but then they get pooped out this giant butt at the end of it, like at the end of their little twist turny around and this sort of situation. But it felt like that, and it felt like a Monty Python sort of bit. And it actually kind of called to, you can't do that on television anymore. Like the feel of him going down through that tube. You can see influence in this is what I'm trying to get at.
There's a lot of that, I mean, in most media, but like specifically a lot of adult swim shows. But when I was reading, doing a little bit of reading on this, I saw that the twins, who are actually my other favorite characters, were kind of ripped from Logan's Run. So I think
Yep.
on all the random influences.
but once he gets shot out of the tube and he ends up in the swamp, Warden is giving this sort of diatribe, right? And this is where I went on mine, was just to get to this point, but this is how this goes. He starts off as like a fly, as like a mosquito, right? And so he's as a mosquito, and then while he's talking, a frog eats him, but is him at the same time. And then the frog continues. And then from there, like some weird snake thing comes out and grabs that frog, but it's still him and he's still talking. And then from there, that snake thing gets eaten by a fucking alligator that's also the warden. And it's only when he gets faced with the giant ghost ship that's coming at him, right? Or what he thinks is a ghost ship in this weird fucking swamp, but it's just an old school steamboat filled with alligator people, by the way. Is when he becomes warden again. It's like it's there's so much happening psychologically with this show. And dude, tell me if I'm going off the rails here, but it feels like in that moment, Warden is sort of going through his own sort of sense of wonder in this place that he didn't know existed, in his own sort of creation. And then he's only snapped back to reality and back into self when he's faced with immediate danger. And that's when you see him as Warden again. Otherwise, he's out exploring this big, beautiful world, this Willy Wonka-esque, as you put it.
So, no, I don't think you're going off the rails, because I think I actually texted you this right after I watched the pilot. But the show casts an illusion where you're never really sure if it's going in a slightly heady direction or not, or if there's like a super loose fitting exoskeleton of like some kind of commentary, like the sequence you described where the warden keeps transforming into an animal that's eating himself, like he's devouring himself. You could argue that that's something. And then faced with imminent danger, then he kind of recedes in a way. The pilot episode, we're very, very clearly introduced to him just kind of, you know, being a Willy Wonka type character. And instead of managing Oompa Loompas, he's managing actual people, like, and you know, something we didn't discuss. The reason the show's hyper violent is just because, like, as backdrop sight gags, people are just exploding, being torn apart, like faces falling off, like, and it's all very fun. And the theme of that first episode is that he wants bunny suits for all the inmates, just because he put a rabbit corpse on his head and he enjoyed it, and the twins, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit, to fuck with them, compromise the order to have wolf suits, and then it turns into all the prisoners like wearing the wolf suits, tearing apart the prisoners in the bunny suits, and you feel like there's something there, but also is it an excuse just to you know, be a conduit for hyperviolence? Also, yes.
So yeah. Beautiful point. Like, it's where does absurdity start and where does absurdity like end, and when does it become commentary? It's hard to figure out what's for laughs. You know what I mean? Like, what is just straight up goof 'em ups? And I would challenge that it's one of those things where the whole goal is to giggle, is to laugh. I think that's the whole goal. And if you make somebody think along the way, then that's like a little added check mark, right? The show's almost too smart for its own good, like in a lot of different ways. Um, like I and it probably happens in at least like 4 or 5 episodes. I did a very bad thing. Um, while I suggested a list to you, I went in straight up and just watched through. I did a watch through. I had some time yesterday night, last night. I had some time today, and I watched the first full season and maybe the first like 4 episodes of season 2 last night, and then I literally just finished up the rest of it this afternoon while I was around the house.
Make no mistake, I will be finishing the show.
but it's one of those things where all of a sudden now, like storyline, plot, all of that begins to meld, and certain gags and certain sites go in and out. So if I'm talking about a thing you haven't seen, don't, whatever, don't worry about it. I think you'll understand the context.
I that too.
But there is an episode where Warden is watching a lot of old drug movies. So like Reefer Madness and that kind of styled movie, right? Like the guy in one of them, it's one of the funniest bits. Dude comes out on the screen that Warden is watching with all the prisoners about the perils of drug use, and the guy's in his jacket. He's got a slick back hair and he's got a fucking doobie, and he's like, "Hey, Square, why don't you smoke this joint?" And the guy's like, "Oh, no, sir. That looks like that could be addictive. I'm just going to smoke these cigarettes," right? And so what does the guy do? He yanks a cigarette out of the kid's mouth, puts it out like on his tongue, and then is like yanking his face off, trying to force him to smoke weed in this movie. All of a sudden, Alice gets up and she goes, "I'm going to go powder my nose." And Warden starts freaking out. He's like, "Powder your nose? Does that mean she's gonna go toot a little candy? And the thing is she hooked on the cocaine?" And he starts going on this weird tirade. So him and Jared get on like this robot X-ray machine so they can go spy on Alice in the bathroom. And it's got goggles. And the whole machine is just Warden's face again, right? So it's like he's constantly peering through himself to do the things that he wants to do. So these horrific things have his face because it is him. Again, if you want to get heady with it, we can, because it's these weird things that you see. So he wants to see the lady in the bathroom. We assume lady. She identifies as a lady. Although
Yes.
there's a very massive bundle like that is hyper prominent throughout the show.
Yeah, there is.
But like, so he's spying on her through these fucking binoculars. Turns out while she's in the bathroom, the twins are in the bathroom. Now, did you catch this one at all?
Did not happen to catch this one now.
Bro, so the twins are giving birth in the bathroom. One of the twins, they have 4 nipples. Each one of the twins has 4 nipples. I don't know if you ever caught that. Yeah. So they have, the 2 and then 2 underneath, but one of them has this weird like bud growing off of them, and it looks very tumorish, and then it's got crystals that are growing out of it, right? Because that's how they reproduce, I guess. So he comes out and he's got this lump with all these crystals on it. Now all the inmates are like, "What is it, Warden?" He finds one of the crystals and he's like, "What is this? Is this the cracked cocaine?" Cracked cocaine.
Let's go.
Is it the crystal methamphetamines? Like, he's like, "What is this?" And so he's freaking out about it, thinking it's some kind of drug. So now all of a sudden, the twins are smuggling drugs. Alice is on the drugs, and everybody's trying to help out, and they're trying to stop drugs from being in the prison. Long story short, eventually they do crush up the crystals, get crazy fucking high. They feed some to Jared, and he goes batshit bananas. Warden and Jared are straight up just tripping sack, and everything around them is it's fucking melting. Heads are growing into balloons, and it gets nuts. Again, they rip off so many faces in this fucking cartoon.
Of course they do.
But anyway, it's a fascinating story. Twins play heavily. Ultimately, a baby is birthed from the tumor as it pops off. Alice wants to keep it. She's like, "Oh, look at my baby that I helped bring to life. I'll take care of you. I'll be your godmother." And then what happens? The twins eat it.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Why the fuck wouldn't they?
Why would they not? But that's like a prime example of like the level of psychotic fucking behavior. And I'm sure the pitch was simply like, hey, they think there are drugs in the prison. And then it becomes this fucking mess of everything. Everything. Of the ones you watched, Connor, what sticks out the most in your head?
Sticks out the most to me. The Colosseum one is a personal favorite. The one where the twins create that being that is a clear reference to some famous piece of art, but it's literally just like the warden like finding out that he defiled a sacred piece of ground. So he celebrates and builds just uses it as a Colosseum for the sake of tearing people apart. And has this like freak creature thing made with his DNA predominantly. When you mentioned Warden's face is on everything, I need to emphasize for those watching, Warden is always smiling, and anything made with his face on it is also always smiling.
It's like the watchful eye of the man. Do you know what I mean? It's very much like Big Brother is watching you, and he's happy that he's doing it. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the context of a prison, I assume it is meant to be a comforting thing. We always wear a smile for everybody, right? We're happy. These are our friends. They're our jail family. It's going to be fine, you know? And then at the same time, like you see that long enough, it's got to be the most terrifying thing in the world. When the person who is over you, you know?
I agree. I don't think this is a direct reference to it in any way, shape, or form. But there's a famous picture of the guy who invented the smiley face, I think, for an advertising agency, and he just looks super miserable, like while he's drawing it.
You get this. So, I used to, and I've talked about it here. I used to work for Nike, right? The lady that drew the Nike swoosh,
yeah,
the infamous Nike swoosh, that check mark that's everywhere, right? Initially, I think she was paid like $70. It's between 200. It's between 70 and 200. They found her in a hallway at Portland State University, right? Just doodling in a notebook. And apparently Phil Knight was like, "Hey, you, I like that. Can I give you some change and you draw me a logo?" And she drew out a few things, right? And the swoosh was the one that stuck. And before you know anything is going to go anywhere, right? Like you pay the artist what you can at that point in time. And whether it was 70 or 200, I will say this. She is obviously much happier than the smiley face man, because Nike took very good care of her over like 40, 50 years. They have taken extremely good care of her. We'll put it that way. That's the only thing that she ever had to draw, Connor. Yeah. Yeah. I wish that could happen for me. Maybe that's my weird year. Maybe that's what this is.
I was gonna say, but we made Curse of the Weird Year. We should probably not push our luck there.
It'll be the only thing I ever have to make. It'll be great. No. but like I don't know, man.
There's a lot to unpack from that.
Yeah, and there's a lot to unpack from just the show in general. Like the inmates are all the, I guess, sort of background inmates, right? Like it's hard to say. It takes a minute outside before we get to like people like Captain Stingray and all that. All of the inmates seem like background, with the exception of the ones that get gay married. There's an episode where two of them get gay married, and it just says, literally, instead of just married or just got married, it says just gay married on the back of what they go off with. Damn, dude. And I keep going back to the last one because there's another, like, a really great standout joke in it. There's a prisoner with no arms that pops up repeatedly over, like, I think it's like seasons 2, 3, and 4. He shows up a lot.
Okay, I remember the starving guy. I'm not sure if he popped up past the first episode, but I feel like I saw him in that last one.
Absolutely, yes. He shows back up too. Yes. The guy with no arms, though, has a great line. He is talking about the past when the 6 actually escaped. And he goes, "Oh, I remember that was a long time ago." And then they go to the flashback and you hear him go, "I still had hair." And meanwhile, not only does he have hair, but he has 2 functioning arms and he's like hammering a nail into something in that bit. But he has no arms as a prisoner now because they're gone.
Yeah.
But I still had hair. And that's what was important to him. I love it. I love it. What's your favorite kill in this?
Oh my God, there are literally so many. I don't think there was one. It's not specific, but I did watch the one, the Jailbot 2.0 one. I feel like that one had an overwhelming amount of creativity and the way people died. I don't think anyone. It was no, a couple people definitely died when the thing turns into like a giant robot, like Killosaurus thing for like 5 seconds before its battery dies. I feel like there's a couple people that got cut up right away. That was delightful.
So 90% of them are getting like heads just sliced off, right? Faces are getting pulled off. They're getting body parts ripped off. They're getting ripped in half. All of that fun stuff.
Go on, sorry.
No, one of my favorite kills in this, and it's a goofy fucking thing. And it's an aside when they build the prison bar. And that's early in season 1. Warden is trying to hit on Alice, and he wants her to have a date at the new prison bar that they've made, where they're feeding all these fucking animals and these inmates fucking booze on top of everything. Wants her to have a date with the most eligible bachelor. He means himself. Fucking, she thinks he means some hardened ass criminal in there. She shows up with a date. He doesn't like it. As all the inmates are getting drunk, she has to go to the little girl's room. And on her way, they're all like making passes at her and everything. And out of nowhere, it's like she has a drill in her hand. It's like she pulls it out of nothing, sticks it into one of the guys, pulls the trigger, and as she does, it's like center mass on him, and it starts to twist, and it just yanks all of his skin off. And she throws the fucking skin over her shoulder, and she just keeps on fucking going. You see him just run away, this like muscle, like it's a disgusting thing.
There's not an overwhelming amount of that, but there's a good amount of that, and it made me happy. Something about skin removal just is indicative of creativity to me. Um, I got two rebuttals for you. One, there was an episode that began with the prison, having a paper that Jared was running. And it's like at face value, this super peaceful moment for the show. It's like papers being run by the inmates, they're being put to work. I think Jared yells "Stop the presses" or something like that, and a dude, obviously, just because like you can't not go more than 20 seconds without somebody getting mutilated. Joe like gets caught into the contraption and just gets completely torn apart and pressed into a paper.
Yes. Yeah. Like, again, so absurd, so ridiculous. And hands down one of the best things in there. What's the other one?
I think one of my top three that I saw was the hot chick episode with the hunter that took the form of a naked woman and is hunting the twins, but is literally just mutilating people the whole time, and somehow becomes a part of a love triangle when literally all she's trying to do is just kill the twins. There was one part, I think, in the first half of the episode where she literally just like picks up a bunch of people and tears them apart and gets covered in blood. And it's meant to be over the top stylistic, and it was just like a that's neat moment. Literally just like taking someone, prying them apart, and just letting the blood fall on her. Kind of basic for the show, but it was satisfying.
So that's the one I was talking about earlier when Warden comes down and he goes, "I have to meet her." Right? Yep. And he comes down down the steps. Yeah, absolutely, bro. It is and you're right. The way they build on some of this just hyper violence. And yeah, it's a cartoon, sure. And it's meant to be cartoony and goofy. It is equal parts hilarious and disgusting and unnerving, because it is, right? Like, I mean, there's a point where so much of the violence becomes background that you get used to it, but then there are those type kills where it's like, oh fuck, look at that. You know what I mean? Yep. Oh fuck, she just ripped that dude in half and she's like naked doing it.
Honestly, the kills like are such just like background noise. Like it does catch you off guard when you see something like notably horrific, and it does happen. There's at least a couple every episode
that pull you back into the of how messed up it is, right?
Yes.
Because and that I think is also another sort of like level of like genius stroke. You know what I mean? I think it's very much a genius stroke of being like, we can take this thing that should, for all intents and purposes, really should fuck with people. We can make it noise. We can just make it noise, but then we can pull it back and again shock. And I think that is, I think there's a level of genius there. I don't know.
No, I agree. Two things I have to say about that. One, there's a sense of power to having the ability to just have hyperviolence on screen essentially at all times, and then they know what they're doing when they're able to still like throw something out there and shock you. Two, that's another one of those things, like it makes you wonder how much intellect is going on screen, because is the hyperviolence a statement on anything, or is it just funny? Like, is it a statement on the prison system, how we view prisoners? Are they people? Or it's stuff like that. Or is it just fun to watch people just fall apart in the background?
So, and I don't, yeah, 100%. I don't know which episode it was. I cannot remember, but it's also another one of my favorite bits. You've got two prisoners out in the yard and they're fighting with each other. They're arguing about a shank versus a shiv, right? One of them holds it up and he goes, "No, man, this is a shiv." No, that's a shank. You can tell that this is a shiv because how it's crafted. And they're discussing the craft work of each and what differentiates shank from shiv. And then that devolves into the both of them just stabbing each other repeatedly, going shank, shiv, shank, shiv, shank, shiv. Hysterical. Hysterical. But like again, at the same time, it's like it's so elevated. It's so elevated in what it is that a common person, a lay person, I mean, I think the two are interchangeable. I don't know. I don't know.
So I do. I meant to say this earlier, but it takes smart to write stupid. I feel like that's been all of like the best stupid comedy are written by extremely extreme intellectuals. I'll go as far as to say this is a good. You can tell smart people are putting this show together. I compared it to Xavier earlier. As much as I appreciate Xavier, as much as I love Wonder Chosen, this has all of that anarchy and whatnot, but it has structure. Every episode in its own way tells a story. Like you don't get that from a lot of shows trying to create the same effect that Super Jail does.
Everything in here is leading somewhere. Everything is leading somewhere. There we go. Okay, I thought we lost you for a minute there. The screen went to your profile deal. Nice to see you back.
Right. I was receiving a call.
So I kind of want to touch back on something. With a guy who gets fully skinned and his muscle is out there, right? Have you ever seen a thing called, I think it's called Body Works?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So it's an art exhibit, right? And I always think about this when I see people get skinned in anything. There's a dude who, and I forget his name, but he went out and it's either Body Works or Body Worlds. But regardless, he would get corpses donated to him. And then he would take them through like a plasticine process and then put them on display, right? And when you would walk into it, at least the one I went to in Portland, when I lived up in Oregon, me and Jen went. The first thing you see is you enter the exhibit, like in its full fucking glory, is a skinned man standing there, like muscles out, all the parts are there. He's just completely skinned, and it's everything underneath. But held out in his right hand is his skin. Like his full, it's like they just took him, bisected him, peeled him open, loop, pulled him down the legs, all of the skin parts. And then he's sitting there just holding his skin. And now it's all gone through this plasticine process. So shit doesn't, it doesn't start to stink. They can move it around. It doesn't decompose.
I'm about to ask, this is all real and correct?
Yeah. Oh, these are dead ass motherfuckers, man. Like dead ass motherfuckers. And it's one of the most fascinating things you'll ever see. There is another one that was called The Archer, right? And the whole notion of the display and of the piece is to showcase not only the human body and its different shapes, styles, forms, fashions, but to also like turn it into art. Okay. So there's a piece called The Archer. And in The Archer, it's a lady and she's got a bow with an arrow drawn. So what you see in that is where the muscle is constricted and contracted to where it's extended. So you can see both of those things in action in The Archer, right? Up top. Now she's also bent down on one knee with one leg straight out. So you can also see that. Completely skinned. Now her head is where art comes into it. across and on either side of her skull is cut out into 3 different sections, right? So there's a plate here, then there's another inner plate and one more smaller inner plate. Those are pulled out, right, from her head. So it's thunk, 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 3 little sections on either side. It almost looks like 2 fucking horns with space in between. And then inside, you can see both halves of her brain, right? Fucking bananas, dude. Bananas. Another one that stands out to me is they had a human brain with the nervous system still attached. And the brain is sitting center mass about 6 feet up on this fucking display, right? And then from it come out all the nerves that go through like your arms down to your legs, to your nuts, to everything that's there. And it's just all the nerves. And it looks like a nerve person, just hanging out. I think they still had the eyes attached to it too.
I've seen stuff like that. It's like super really, it's almost kind of jellyfishy, but it's just the brain and the eyes. Was it anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. It's terrifying, absolutely terrifying, but also like deeply fascinating. And the last one, well, the last 2, because it wasn't just people, right? Like it was also animals. They had a camel that had all 4 of its stomachs bisected, and then its head was trisected. And what they did with the head was like this portion of it was up and extended. The other portion, one portion in the center, was at rest. And then the third portion was down like it was feeding. So it was like the 3 sections that you could see that was its head. Its stomach was cut open so you could see the fucking inside of it and like the 4 stomach structure. Mind blown.
First of all, I love they jumped from human being to camel of all animals. But
there were a few more, bro. There were some horses. I think there were some cows. I want to say they had one that was like a Lady Godiva that was on like a horse. But the last one, and then we'll get back to this wackadoo cartoon. The last one that I'll leave with was a person cut in half at the waist. The head was gone. So it was literally like just the torso up. One arm was extended and balanced on that arm upside down, beginning at the throat, was the entire digestive system. So in the palm of the hand, starting with the throat, working its way up through the stomach, then the intestines, and then the anus. Just like, here you go. Upside down for no fucking reason, outside the body. Again, like mind blown that people donate their bodies for this. You turn it into art as much as science.
I love that. First of all, that last one probably was a kill in Super Jail. 2, one of my favorite horror subgenres is body horror. It's because like anatomy is freaky. Like stuff going wrong with anatomy is freaky. Like, and Super Jail, in a roundabout way, it's ironically it's less horrifying, but it's like all the various skinnings, like that they get like detailed in how they draw, like, people with their skin ripped off. Like it's creative, for lack of a better way to put it.
As cartoony as it is like hyper detailed in a way that is again, you go through, the art is beautiful, it's whatever. It is detailed, it is graphic, but at the same time it stays very, very true to its cartoony roots. And it's very goofy. It's
as established, very Adult Swim of that era, but it's also like, it's not just Schoolhouse Rock, but there's like a vague like Hanna-Barbera like and 70s like influence in all of the character designs and some of the animations.
Bro, that's yes. From the fact that the warden is Willy Wonka, through the way that it's stylized. So much of this cartoon reminds me of the work of like R. Crumb. Like, are you familiar with R. Crumb?
Remind me, I know the name and I definitely know his works.
Bro, he's the guy who originally created Fritz the Cat.
Okay.
Before what is it? Ralph Bakshi took over the property, took over the work, and made the cartoon. It's based on his style. If you've ever seen the Keep On Truckin' guy, the old guy with the beard that's like down to his fucking ball sack, and he's got 1 foot way long extended, and he's got the bindle over his shoulder. That's the Keep On Truckin'. That's also an R. Crumb thing. But he's got that style where it's hyper cartoony, but also it feels like it could be very real, you know?
Yeah, it's not specific with Super Jail. It's really mostly just with how the warden is characterized. But there's like that rubber hosey kind of like. It's definitely not like 1930s rubber hosey, but it's like a way. It's definitely that sort of vibe. At least that one character.
I feel like I could see all of these characters in like a Grateful Dead cartoon somewhere.
Oh, easily.
Of that era. Yeah. Especially Warden, Jared, Alice. I mean, maybe not Alice so much. Which, and we've done her no justice in this. I think Alice is one of my favorite characters.
It sneaks up on you. Like, I feel like she's given the most attention, but like other than Warden on the down, like she probably has the most development, I dare to say, or at least like she's the most fleshed out. Like because Jared is just kind of, and the Warden are both kind of caricatures, whereas Alice has actual feelings and character comparatively.
Yes.
Comparatively. She's still among those core three.
But I mean, but at the end of the day, you're absolutely right. She has an development, or just simply being like a deeper character. It's one or the other. I mean, I don't know that she has a massive arc per se, but I think she has the most meat on her bones as a character. That I'll agree with all day long. Nobody in this has an arc. That's the other beautiful thing about like television and episodic television in general. Anything that's sort of sitcom styled. I took a writing for TV class back in the day, and the teacher gave us one big bit of advice. He's like, your characters should grow over time. So by season 5, they've learned something. But the challenge for you is going to be you have to soft reset every week, no matter what. So no matter what they've learned, you still have to go back to square one by the end of the episode somehow. So South Park did it in a brilliant way. They killed Kenny at the end of every episode, but he was back at the beginning of every other episode for the longest amount of time. That was a huge joke. And the idea is that, again, every week the show has to reset. You have to reset. You have to begin, the same as you left. But the way the instructor put it was, your characters have to grow gradually. So know who they are at the end of episode 1, know who they are at the end of episode 100, find a way to teach them those lessons while not forgetting to reset. And you still have to reset as though they learned nothing. And I was like, that's fucking heavy, bro.
It is, especially thinking about the sitcoms that I've seen straight through that kind of pulled it off. But I'm also thinking about how the Seinfeld Bible, like their number one rule is, what for other writers was, nobody learns anything ever.
Nobody learns anything ever. Yeah. I mean, and there are different styles, but that's the idea, is to know the rules, know why you're breaking the rules, or at the same time, why you're completely tossing them out the window because you want to be different, because you want that, right? Like it's a specific thing. Um, I don't know.
I did pick up with this show specifically that there obviously aren't very many episodes, and they're all very short to begin with. But when I started jumping around from like mid-season 2 on, I noticed there was a lot more continuity than there was in season 1, which was more strictly episodic comparatively.
Yes, there it gets to be a little bit more of like a fleshed out, full blown narrative as you go along, which is nice. I mean, which is nice. If you're only catching 11 minutes here and there, and you want to tell a bigger story, build it out, right? Build it out. But Jackknife is always out at the beginning of every episode. He's always escaped. He's always figured it out. And I can't point to any sort of specific situation, but I know for a fact there are a number of episodes where you actually see Jackknife's escape in the background as he's getting out of the jail.
Okay.
Throughout, yeah. So I mean,
go on.
No, go for it, please.
I was gonna say he was one of my favorite consistencies of the show. Every episode begins with him getting caught, but then it's like if something happened in the last episode, it would reflect the beginning of the next. Like my favorite was the time police. The warden gets taken to time jail, and then the next episode begins with Jackknife getting arrested and taken to regular jail, and it's all very sad comparatively.
so that, yeah, that's the other thing, is the way shit ties together. It's like a beautiful acid trip that is wrapped up in a bunch of horrible shit, Connor. Like it is. And yeah, whether or not this is a bona fide, very real statement on the prison system, whether it's a bona fide statement on where we are as a society with crime, with punishment, whether or not we're a hyper violent society in general, who knows? I think that's up to the viewer. And I think that's also like the cornerstone of like good art, right? The viewer determines what it is. And the creators can just sit back, and if they want to argue with people, you missed my point, that's fine. But if people can sit and find something more in what you've done, then I think that's a better deal. It's better to be quiet. It's better to be quiet. That's one of the things I hope with Weird Deer. I have the tip that I push with it, and not that this should be self-promotion, but whatever. Fuck it. James and Nicole aren't here. I'm just going to talk about my shit. It's totally Ben. It's fine.
Talk about it.
But no, but the big thing there is what I am most curious about when people see it is what they walk away from with. Like, if what I'm hoping comes across in the story actually comes across, or if people are just going to miss everything and come out with something else altogether different. I'm very curious about that. That's what I really am more excited about.
Ironically, I think Weird Deer is a great comparison because, as you just alluded to, there is, I hesitate to use the framing of messaging, but there's some well-intended stuff put in there, but a lot of people along for the ride are definitely not going to necessarily get that out of it.
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing. Like that's what I wonder about. That's what I wonder about. So I'm very curious to see what happens. But with this, with a thing like this, with a thing like Super Jail, there's so much coming at you in such a short amount of time. And the way that it comes at you is it's an onslaught. It doesn't let up. And the second you think you have a breather in those brief moments of respite, the next thing you know, you're fucking getting bombarded again.
It got crazier as it went on too. Like, to talk about that last episode, I think barely broke 11 minutes, and there's how much it was, like, there's how much lore, like, there's so much, how much happens, like,
Bro, it covers the entire life of the prison from year one to present day. So there you go. There's that. Number two, uh, Warden leaves, and it bounces from year one, present day, to 6 months ago. And then when Warden goes down the pipe in that 6 months time, not only was he like, oh, I can spend an afternoon, and then he breaks out this full love affair with an alligator woman, right? From courtship, where they're out fishing together, to where he knocks her up, to where he accidentally, well, not accidentally, he sees a bunch of alligator eggs, and he's like, we have eggs for dinner, and he cracks one open, and it's one of the babies, and she's like, what the fuck, you just killed our baby, ah. And then to a house full of babies, which you can only assume that's not just that one nest, it's mini nest, because by the time you see his alligator wife, now it looks like she's had several litters, and she's all like cellulite and like lumpy. I hate to put it that way, but that is how she is drawn. I am so sorry.
intentionally drawn, yes. And it's also entirely nondescript how long he's down there. Like, that could have been like that same afternoon, or it could have been like 6 months.
It could have been. You have no idea how long that exactly. And then the way it bounces around is fucking bananas. But I think the show overall, and we're getting to a point, Connor, where we should probably start. We've got a couple of bits of business that I've got to get to this evening for this. But like, I think overall, from wanting to put your inmates in rabbit suits to make them happy, right? To make them happier, because you're so disconnected with what's going on in your own space, to an episode in 11 minutes that covers the entire history of your prison up to date, plus your secret life outside of your prison, is fascinating. It's fascinating. This is hands down one of my favorite cartoons. Like, I love the show.
This
But
is probably 5 Adult Swim for me, easily. Thank you very much for having me on the show and introducing me to this program.
well, you know what we do here, and I have to find them because I am very slow. James would be very disappointed. He doesn't like it when I do this stuff, but I'm going to do it anyway. We have two things that we usually do here. We rate things on a scale of success for things that we love, and then oh shit, I can't find it now. Oh well. So I'll do them. I'll make the noises. Leo, we have a new one that goes. It's Leo as he was leaving. He goes, "I love coming. I love coming." If it's a thing that you absolutely love, you see no flaws with, that's what it gets. Or, you know, if you would recommend it to a friend, but it's still, it could have some other things with it, and could do a little bit better. You give it the old success. And then if it's just a pile of garbage that you would never, ever, ever recommend to anybody, you give it the old Derek. Oh, I found him. Here we go. Here's Leo.
I really enjoy coming.
Did you hear that?
I really enjoy coming.
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
And then we've got here's Derek.
I got to witness that being filmed. That's one of my happiest memories of my entire life.
I mean, it's so ridiculous. And then I can't find success to save my life. I have those two. But regardless, that one I can do. I'm very good. Connor, what are you giving this week?
I am giving Super Jail a hearty success. Room to grow. I have more of the show to watch. As we said many times over, a lot happens in the show. A lot is thrown at you. Most of these 11-minute shows warrant one or two rewatches at least. So I see this. I see myself staying with the show for the long run.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, everything's got room to grow, but this is hands down one of my favorite things.
Enjoy coming.
So me and Leo, we're gonna come.
I really enjoy coming
all day long. It's one of the greatest shows. I would recommend this to everybody that I know. It's fascinating. It's beautiful. Wonderfly done. The art is exceptional. It's colorful. It's bright. The people who worked in the art department knew what they were doing. As far as crafting a world, as far as crafting many worlds inside of one. Fucking genius. Absolutely fucking genius.
The very last thing I want to mention in reference to them, I don't know if any of the writers or the animators had any interest in Buddhism, but I feel like there was a lot of gravitation towards what a peaceful environment this would be if not for this in not many episodes, but at least a handful of episodes. And they would definitely characterize the prison in a variety of different lush and growth oriented ways.
One of my favorite episodes is also early on. It's when everybody is bored at the prison. And the big problem with that day is that it's just so fucking boring in jail. You know what I mean? It's again, go back through, watch the entire series. But to that end, yeah, you can see a lot of Eastern influence in it. Of course. I mean, anything this psychedelic, I think, is another thing. Anything this sort of transcendent, you're gonna find a touch of philosophy in, You're gonna find a touch of some of that as it goes through. But on the whole, I mean, Super Jail's one for the fucking record books, bro. That's how we do. Yes. Before
the trumpet dance, everyone.
Before we get going, we do have an email. We haven't gone through our emails in a very long time, and it's because there's not a lot in there. We have from our fearless leader. James Boylan from the Flapjack set. I am just taking a quick look at this. Here's what he says. James says, "Hey, my toonies. It's been 2 weeks since I've been on air, and I miss it. But like they say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. Thanks to Ben for running the show." We're doing something, James. The heart of the show keeps the show beating. But keep the show beating. Just don't beat off on the show. Not yet. My name is not Jeffrey Toobin. James says, hashtag totally Toonular never dies. To Nicole, you're amazing. And you are always a part of the Toonular family. There's a lot of changes going on with the show right now, but I appreciate and am thankful to everyone who will be on the show throughout this month. My question is not a Super Jail related question, as he's never seen the show. James is fucking up. But the question, if you can spend a day as any animated character, who would it be? Loves the Toonular family and cannot wait to be back. Connor, huge question.
That is a huge question.
Who are you? Come on.
only because I'm still thinking about Warden. When I think about Warden, I think about Frieza from Dragon Ball for some reason, because I feel like they're two sides of the same coin. Frieza was one of those characters that really kind of struck me when I was younger for the same reason, and also I'm into the color purple. That's not my long term answer, but that's what's popping into my brain right now.
Got it.
Ben, if you want to go, I might circle back to something better.
So here's the deal, man. As I drink my strawberry bubbly, for me, any animated character out there, the one James that I would be is very simple. Very simple. It's Garfield. I would be Garfield any day of the week. Dry wit, quick wit. Nothing is expected of you. You just nap, eat lasagna, make fun of your owner, and sleep. And on Mondays, you get to just complain because it's simply Monday. And then every once and again, you get to go off, have a crazy ass Halloween adventure. For further information about that, you can always go back in the Totally Toonular archives, and you can listen to our episode with the one and only John Patrick Brennan, where we talk about Garfield's Halloween adventure. But I would be Garfield, always.
Solid choice. I feel like when you're talking about what character you want to be, and I'm definitely taking this way too far, you gotta kind of think about what world they're in as well. Like I'm also thinking it would be fun to be Gumby, but Gumby also kind of lives in a wonderful hellscape, arguably much like Super Joe in its own way.
No, yeah, that would be insane to live in a constantly moving claymation world, like
Yep.
that, where shit can morph and twist and whatever. That would be fucking bananas. I'm trying to think. God, of things that we've talked about here on the show. I think Duncan Trussell's character in Midnight Gospel would actually be a really chill character too, if I could be a cartoon. Because again, it's one of those things where the world is constantly shifting. Your eyes are open to not only the world around you, but to the worlds that exist inside of those worlds. I think that would be fucking super chill.
I am going to go Google Midnight Gospel. I don't think I'm familiar.
Bro, have you ever heard a podcast called the Duncan Trussell Family Hour is what it's called?
It's on my radar now.
It's okay, so it's one of the older ones. It's been around since really since podcasting kind of hit the mainstream. He was one of the pioneers of, you could say, right? But Duncan Trussell, if you want to talk about stuff that's like deep seated in Eastern styled philosophy, look it up. I'll send you a fucking link here in a minute. To a point to where like this is how deep it goes with him. He's a comedian. He's gone through the ringer with everything. Eats a lot of psychedelics. But he also he's into the teachings of Ram Dass, and his mom was big into Eastern philosophy. And as she was on her deathbed, literally dying, he did an interview with his mother that is one of the most heartfelt, beautiful, touching sort of things you will ever hear from a son to a mother to a son. It is absolutely tear-jerking. But he's been doing this for 15 years. He was on before the guys on the last podcast were on, and they've been doing it about a decade now. So it's an amazing show, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. He popped up on Harmontown a lot back in the day. Yeah. Chill guy, very chill guy. But Midnight Gospel is a cartoon that we talked about here where they take sections of his podcast and animate around sort of
Oh,
what's
that's
going on.
fine. I love like all those popping up on YouTube. Like obviously, Smiling Friends, one of my new favorite shows. Like the guys that made that, there's a lot of just animated segments of like their live streams floating around YouTube, and it's delightful.
Have you ever seen it? Do you know what sparked that? Can I tell you what sparked that? What I think it was anyway?
Please do.
There is a cartoon, I want to say it was on Comedy Central back in the day. It was called Shorties Watching Shorties.
Yes, I think that you're right. That probably did spark all this.
Because it was them watching adult stand-up bits, and then the stand-up bits were animated as they went along. And I want to say, God damn, I think there was a one where they would do like radio bits too. I want to say there was a thing back in the day where maybe they animated some Stern Show bits, but that could just be wishful thinking too. Anyway, we could do this all evening. James, thank you for checking in from the Flapjack set. Nicole, we wish you the best and cannot wait to have you back here. We need you here. I need another voice that's here constantly because I'm low key going insane. And Connor, I want to thank you for sitting in this evening. If people are looking for you, where can they find you, buddy?
Right now, just on my Instagrams. I'm Epic Cabaret for my main, EPIQUECABARET. And then there's a link to my photography Instagram in there. My main is for my acting and modeling, and I'm going to have some business stuff up soon for the bartending stuff. So, yeah, just Instagram and Facebook right now. Easy to find on Facebook.
Ooh la la, very nice. And friends, if you want to catch up with the show, if you want to see what's popping off here, you can always check us out at Fantasy Shed. You can find us on Twitter. You can find us on Instagram. You can find me, myself, and I at yarn_Yeti on the Instagram. And then again, too, James at Makes No Diff. You can find Nicole out there. I think you just use her name. You can find her. But friends, check in with us, and we will be back once again next week. And Connor, usually people ask somebody what's going to be next week. Well, fuck it. I'm just going to tell you.
All right.
Next week we have one, maybe two guests. And we're going to be talking about one of my favorite cartoons. Again, we're dipping into the superhero genre, but in a very weird way. We will be watching The Tick.
I have fond memories of watching the Tick cartoon. I'm happy to hear that's one of your favorites, Ben.
It's amazing. And depending on our situation, Connor, the invite is open. We are recording next Tuesday night instead of Wednesday, but the invite is open. So you let me know off it. Don't say it here. I don't want to put you under any pressure. But if you get a chance to join us, do. All right?
Thank you, Ben.
Very good. And again, everybody, thank you for listening in. John, thanks for running aboard. We're fucking out of here, man.
You guys, this is all Kyle's mom's fault. Shut up, Cartman. Kyle's mom is the one that started that damn club, and all because she's a